It was a cold and misty morning in the northern hills of China, centuries ago, when the first whispers of an invincible wall began to spread. Farmers huddled in their fields, merchants whispered in crowded bazaars, and soldiers at distant outposts tightened their grips on cold steel swords. Nobody knew where the idea had originated, but the people called it the dragon's spine, a wall so grand it could shield the empire itself from the relentless invasions of the northern tribes. Among the whispers was a man named Wei, a humble mason from a small village nestled between two towering mountains. Wei had no ambitions of greatness, no dreams of changing the course of history. His days were spent shaping stones, his evenings spent with his young daughter, Leon, whose laughter was the only light in his otherwise laborious life. But fate has a way of finding ordinary people and weaving them into extraordinary tales. When the imperial decree arrived in the village, Wei's heart sank. Every able-bodied man was conscripted to join the emperor's grand project, the construction of the Great Wall. The village elders murmured their doubts. "It is impossible," they said. "No wall can be so long, no wall so strong." Yet, the emperor's will was law. Refusal meant death. Wei kissed Leon goodbye, promising to return before the harvest. But as he walked away, the look in her wide, tear-filled eyes stayed with him. He carried her memory like a talisman, vowing to survive whatever challenges awaited him. The journey to the construction site was arduous, and the stories from other conscripts were grim. Men spoke of back-breaking labor, of cruel overseers, of lives lost to exhaustion or falls from great heights. When Wei arrived at the site, he was struck by its sheer scale. Endless lines of workers stretched across the horizon, hauling massive stones up treacherous slopes. Overseers barked orders, while the sound of chisels and hammers echoed through the air. The wall was more than just a structure. It was an empire's desperate attempt to preserve itself. Wei's skill as a mason quickly caught the attention of the overseers. Unlike others who worked with brute force, Wei had an instinctive understanding of stone. He could sense its flaws, its strengths, and how it could be shaped to fit perfectly with others. This earned him both admiration and jealousy. While some workers sought his advice, others whispered about him in the shadows, their resentment growing with each passing day. As the weeks turned into months, Wei learned the harsh realities of the emperor's vision. The wall was built not just by sweat and stone, but by sacrifice. Men who collapsed from exhaustion were buried beneath the very structure they had worked on. Rumors spread of ghostly figures wandering the wall at night, their mournful cries carried by the wind. "They are the restless spirits of those who died here," an old worker told Wei one evening. "Their souls cannot find peace." One night, as Wei sat alone by the campfire, he overheard a heated argument between two overseers. They spoke of a section of the wall that had repeatedly collapsed despite their best efforts. "The ground is cursed," one said. "No matter how we build it, the earth swallows the stones." Wei couldn't help but feel a pang of curiosity. He approached them cautiously and offered his help. "I have worked with stone my entire life," he said. "Perhaps I can find the problem." The overseers were skeptical but desperate. They led Wei to the troubled section, a remote area perched precariously on a cliffside. By the light of the moon, Wei examined the ground, his hands running over the jagged rocks and loose soil. He soon discovered the problem. The foundation was unstable, weakened by underground springs that eroded the soil. "We need to redirect the water," Wei explained. "If we do not, the wall will never stand." His solution was ingenious but labor-intensive. The overseers reluctantly agreed, and Wei was put in charge of a small team to carry out the repairs. As they worked, Wei noticed something strange. Among the stones and soil were ancient carvings, symbols he didn't recognize. They seemed to predate the wall by centuries, perhaps even millennia. Wei couldn't shake the feeling that they were disturbing something older and more powerful than the empire itself. One evening, as Wei examined one of the carvings, an old man appeared. He was not part of the workforce, and his clothes were unlike anything Wei had seen before. "You should not be here," the old man said, his voice low and gravelly. "This land has its own guardians. They do not take kindly to intrusions." Wei was startled but not afraid. "Who are you?" he asked. The old man did not answer directly. Instead, he looked at the wall with a mixture of sadness and reverence. "The wall is not just stone," he said. "It is a binding. What you are building will protect the empire, yes, but it will also awaken forces you cannot control." Before Wei could ask more, the old man disappeared into the shadows. Wei tried to dismiss the encounter as a trick of the mind, the product of exhaustion and stress, but the words lingered in his thoughts, gnawing at him like a persistent echo. The wall's construction continued, and Wei's section finally held firm. The overseers praised his ingenuity, and his fellow workers celebrated with what little food and drink they could muster. Yet Wei felt no joy. The carvings and the old man's warning weighed heavily on him. He began to notice subtle changes, strange sounds at night, shadows that seemed to move on their own, and an unsettling stillness in the air. One fateful night, a violent storm descended upon the wall. Thunder roared, and lightning illuminated the sky, casting eerie shadows on the towering structure. As the workers huddled in their tents, Wei ventured out, unable to shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. He made his way to the section he had repaired and saw, to his horror, that the carvings had begun to glow faintly, pulsing with an otherworldly light. Suddenly, the ground beneath him trembled, and a deafening crack split the air. Part of the wall collapsed, sending massive stones tumbling down the cliffside. In the chaos, Wei caught a glimpse of something, a figure, tall and imposing, emerging from the shadows. It was not human, yet it moved with purpose, its glowing eyes fixed on the wall. Wei's breath caught in his throat. Was this the guardian the old man had spoken of? Was this the price of the Empire's ambition? As the storm raged on, Wei's thoughts turned to Lian. He had promised to return to her, but now he wasn't sure if he ever would. The figure advanced, and the wall's defenders prepared for a battle they could not hope to win. The story of the Great Wall had always been one of strength and endurance, of human ingenuity and resilience. But beneath its towering stones lay secrets untold, sacrifices unspoken, and a cost far greater than anyone had imagined. As Wei stood on that trembling ground, he realized that the wall was not just a shield. It was a line drawn between two worlds, a fragile barrier holding back something ancient and unstoppable. And as the first light of dawn broke through the storm, the question remained: would the wall stand, or would it crumble under the weight of its untold story?